Hey everybody, how are you? I hope you're having a wonderful day. So today is going to be kind of a mishmash of things. There's a few things I want to get done. First, I want to start with the blueberry patch, my little blueberry plants. They're growing a lot of weeds on the bottom, so I just want to pull up some of the weeds and talk about what I'm going to do to take care of those blueberries, because it's my first time planting blueberries, and I really, 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 I'm not expecting a harvest this year because they're still babies. It's my first year having them, but I really want to take care of them. So I'm going to handle that first, and then we're going to pop an extra petunia in one of the front planters because there was one in there. I think it was a petunia. We'll check it. There was one in there, but it died for some reason. I'm not sure why. I don't think it was watering because everything else was fine, and it was a couple weeks ago when it wasn't even that hot. So I'm not sure what the problem was with that, but we're going to take care of that. I also want to do some watering, and I want to show my method of watering, how we do it. So we're going to take care of that. But before we get started, I wanted to show our seeds, the seeds that we started. So I'm just going to show a couple of them. I'm going to water them now. They look a little dry. These are one of the zinnia. They're the pinwheels, so they're doing really well. And then we have, let's see, the the giant flowered. So they're getting big. These are on my windowsill in the basement, so they're getting sun. I wasn't sure how they were going to do because they get sun here, but the sunlight that comes into the house is not ideal for seed starting, but all of these are doing really, really well. This is the Linaria, which is my first time planting these, but they're coming up. And we also have the teddy bear. Yeah, this is a teddy bear. This is one of the zinnias. No, this is one of the sunflowers. The teddy bear was one of the sunflowers. I think it was a nice poofy yellow one that looks kind of like a cotton ball. I showed you the pinweed. What else do we have? And this is another zinnia. This is exquisite, and it's coming out as a pot. This is really good. So I'm gonna give these another, I don't know, maybe a week or so on the windowsill. Then I'm gonna start transitioning them outside. So I'll harden them off. I'll leave them outside for a couple hours here, a couple hours there, a little bit longer each time, and then we'll start planting them out. These are kind of tough. Well, I don't know about the Linaria because I've never planted those. But the sunflower and the zinnia are kind of tough, so I don't have to be as gentle with them as I am with the other things, the other seedlings I had. Let's not talk about the other seedlings I have because they're not looking good. The phlox actually said goodbye, and the other things still haven't gotten out, not because of the weather, but because I've just been too tired to not too tired and too busy. I've had a lot going on with everything with the garden and with work and with other responsibilities. Those have made me tired. So I haven't had a chance to put those out yet. So I don't know if they're going to make it out. We'll see. If not, I still have seeds in the seed packets. I might just direct sow and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen? Nothing. Okay, fine. So we're going to do that. So it's going to be a packed day. There was something else I wanted to do, but I can't remember what it was right now, and I'm not doing this video over again. So once I remember, we'll add that in there. So come along for the ride. You're always welcome. All right. Hey, everybody. So I remembered what it was that I wanted to do. I wanted to do a little rejuvenate prune on things that weren't looking very great. So I have a couple of hanging baskets, and then right out of the frame, I have a couple of geraniums. These were bought, specifically the hanging baskets were bought maybe 2-3 weeks ago. No, 3-4 weeks ago. Maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. We kept them in the basement because it was a little bit cold to keep them out at the time, and they stayed in the basement a little bit too long. We may or may not have faltered on watering, which reminds me I've got to go back in and water my seedlings as soon as we're done here. There's just so much to remember. We may or may not have faltered on watering, but this is what these hanging baskets look like. Now, they're coming back because a week ago they didn't have this new growth. They're pushing new growth. So what I want to do I might sacrifice some of the new growth, but what I want to do is I want to give them a little rejuvenate prune, and then take care of them like normal, and see what happens. See if I want to see if I can get rid of some of this old dead growth. So for some of them, I might have to cut off some of these new growths if it's growing on the old dead growths. For some that don't look that bad, I'll leave it. And I want to see if it'll flush out new growths. It usually will. These will come back, even though they're annuals. They'll come back after being cut back, and they'll grow a little bit more full. I've never I've never cut them. I've never given them a prune, rejuvenation prune, because I've never had to. We, we don't usually when we buy our hanging baskets, it's already warm enough to just hang them within a few days. So we've never had them get to this state. But there's a first time for everything, and what's the worst that can happen? If they don't come back, then we'll just pull these out and put something else in these pots. So let's see if we can rejuvenate them a little bit. So I'm going to put this one down here so we can focus on this one. I've got them stacked up on bags of soil and mulch, and I've got you stacked up on a couple buckets that I found in the backyard. I will be getting the proper stand for my phone, so we can be like professional influencers. It's great, but right now it's just me, you, the phone, and a tripod that was too small. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to look for this old growth, the dry old, anything that's old and dry first that doesn't have anything on it. I'm going to get rid of that first. So I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start snipping. And the idea behind this is that snipping some of this stuff away will reduce the energy that the plant has to spend on everything, and allow the plant to push energy into new growth and into these new blooms that it has. So that's why we do the rejuvenate prune. And for some of these new blooms, they're going to have to go, because I want to, see that one just slipped right off. I really want to give this kind of a hard cut just to see if it'll come back. I'm sure it will come back. It might just take it some time. But the weather's getting warmer and it's getting more consistently warm, so that's a plus. So we're just going to take off some of this dead stuff. I don't want to take off too much because I want to leave some vegetation here, because the plant still has to photosynthesize, and if I take off too much, it's not going to be able to. So I want to be mindful about how much I'm taking off. And I do want to keep it kind of even. I don't want to make it uneven. So I'm not going to take off everything. I'm just going to take off the most, whatever looks the worst, the most egregious stuff. Alright. I don't know why there's a shoelace in here. That can go. It probably blew in from somewhere. This on, and I'm leaving the base of what's coming out of the soil, because that's where the new growth is going to push out from. So I'll just do this. Alright, so you can see already it's starting to open out a little bit. I opened out the middle, so it looks a little scant, but it's not going to stay that way, because we still have the base branches coming out of the soil, and we're gonna work with those. I am going to start fertilizing. I usually fertilize annuals once a week or once every other week, so I'm going to start fertilizing. I'll probably start fertilizing this weekend. So this will get fertilizer too, since it's an annual, and that fertilizer will help it push out new growths. And I do have to admit, this is kind of a scary process, especially if you've only been gardening. If you're new to gardening, or you've only been gardening for a little while, or if you don't have to, you've never had to do it. Like, I've wanted to do this for a while, but I've always put it off because I just, you can never be sure. It's kind of like thinning your seeds. A lot of people want to say you should thin your seeds, and you really should thin your seeds. I haven't thinned a seed yet because to me it feels like murder, but that's just me. But this process is beneficial for the plant because you don't want the plant to strain itself using all of its energy on dead and dying branches and leaves. You want it to be able to conserve some of that energy and use energy to push out new growth. So when we do this, we allow the plant to push out new growth. So I'm going to continue with this one and the one over here on my side, and then I will come back and show you the finished product. Alright, so here is the finished product. I'll bring this up, and I'll bring the other one up so you can see. So as you can see, I took more off of this one, and I'll bring it closer so you can see it. I took a little bit more off of this one. This one I left a little bit fuller, so I didn't take off as much as I could have. I could keep going, but I don't want to be that drastic. What I'm going to do is, as it begins, I can take this off here. As it begins to push new growth and flush out a little bit more, then I can go in and then I can do a little bit of spot pruning and just prune off the things that are not looking good, and leave what's still looking better. But that's going to be in a couple of weeks. I'm going to give it a couple of weeks to come back to life. I can take this off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start fertilizing it, but that'll be probably over the weekend. What I'm going to do now, or before I go in this evening, is I'm going to water it. It doesn't really need that much. You know what? I'm not going to water it. It doesn't really need that much water. These are Superbells, so Superbells don't take as much water as Supertunias do, which many people learn that a lot of times Supertunias and Superbells are used in the same containers, and Superbells kind of look, well, not great because they're used in the same containers. They don't take the same amount of water. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to water these because they feel pretty wet. I'm just going to put them in the sun, and I'll just let the heat of the sun, do its thing with them. And I'll make sure over the next few days that they're watered properly and that they're doing well. All right. So this is these. I also have some. Let me step out of the frame for a minute. I found a couple geraniums that we had forgotten about. Yeah, we're really good at this. So I'm going to put this. Oops, I don't want you to fall. Let me hold these. I'll put you down. So yeah, so these are a couple geraniums. One was red, and I don't remember. I think this one was white, and we haven't gotten to using them yet. So I'm going to do the same thing with these. I'm going to deadhead these. You stay near me. So I'll just take off the old blooms, and these are getting kind of dry, and they're getting tired of these pots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can get them in the ground today. I might not put this in a video, but I'm going to see if I can get them in the ground today, because they need, or in a bigger container, because they need some more consistent water. These pots dry out way too quickly for them, and if we keep putting them in there, they're gonna die, and we're not going to be able to bring them back, and I would hate to lose them. This one's got some bloom heads over here that's going to come out, and then we've got this one that's got some bloom heads over here. So I just cut off the dead leaves, the spent blooms, anything brown that's not giving any kind of life, and I'll take care of the rest of them. So before I do anything else, I think I'm just going to stick these either in a container or in the ground somewhere and be done with those. And I'm gonna use them in a arrangement, but I'm gonna let them come back a little bit and get a little bit stronger before I use them. There's no rush. We have the entire summer. All right, so that's it with project number 1. Now let's get to project number 2. Hey everybody, so we're back. We are in front of project number 2. So what I want to do today, we are in front of the blueberry bushes. These are the blueberry bushes, and I've got 2 of them. I should give them names. I'm so excited I finally have blueberry bushes. So what I want to do is I want to pull up the weeds in front of the blueberry bushes and talk about them for a few moments. But before we do that, let's talk about some garden fails. Yes, garden fails. Garden fails are things in the garden that you thought would go well, that were supposed to go well, that would have gone well if the odds were in your favor, but for whatever reason did not go well. So my garden fail that I've wanted to talk to you about for a couple weeks now, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks now, but it was just too difficult. It was too hard to bear. My garden fail would be winter sowing. So, in my garden tour, I think it was, I went through the whole garden and I showed you part of the garden tour, showing you the winter sowing projects that I had, and I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 10, 12 different containers, and not everything came up in every container, but I had at least 6 containers that had something. I had a full container of Shasta daisies, and I had other containers. I think coneflower, um, I think the coreopsis had come up, different things that came up that I was so excited about because I had never grown them before, either from seed or getting them from a nursery or anything like that, and I was really excited about them, and then life happened. So what happened was, I had I think I was pretty good staying on top of watering them, getting everything watered. It wasn't really hot, consistently hot back then. We would get one hot day and then it would be cold for like a week. So I was staying on top of watering them. It was a little bit challenging because some of the holes on the containers were on the side, so I would have to open some of the containers up. But I got over those challenges. And then we had one hot day. One day when it got, well, it felt like it was like 85 degrees outside. I think it only got to like 72, but it felt hot outside, and everything fell apart. In reality, I probably missed a watering the day before or the couple days before. So when that one hot day came, everything fell apart because they're in shallow pots. I'll show you one. They were in shallow containers, not even pots. They were in shallow old fruit containers that didn't have that much soil, so there wasn't much soil to retain moisture. So they crumbled in the heat and in the sun. And they were out in the sun on the side garden. Our side garden is pretty much full sun all day long. So they were out in the sun in the side garden and they fell apart. So I have a couple things here, but I'm pretty sure they're weeds. I'm not even sure what this one was, but I'm pretty sure they're weeds. This one was supposed to be nasturtium, but this is a weed that I commonly pull out of my garden, and everything else is just gone. Just gone. I think this is the one that was full of Shasta daisies, and it's powder. So this is definitely a garden fail. So some lessons learned, because whenever you have a garden fail, you wanna learn some lessons. You wanna go back and think about it, reflect on what you did. So the next time you can either decide, okay, this is too much for me, I'm not gonna do it. This is not the life for me. I don't want to live that kind of winter sowing life. Or I do want to winter sow again, but there's some things that I need to do. So first of all, the next time I do winter sowing, I'm going to try to use containers like this. Most people winter sow in the gallon containers, the big gallon containers that you get milk or juice in. We don't use those very much, and I didn't want to buy milk or juice just for the purpose of winter sowing, because I found that would be wasteful. So I decided to use these because we buy fruit all the time and we get fruit in these. So next time I'm going to save these. I'm going to add more soil to it. These are really good because they have the holes on the top, so when it rains or snows, it's easier for the soil to get in, so it gets into the whole container and not just on the sides. And when I water, I don't have to open the container to water evenly. I can just let it fall through the holes, and I can even poke some more holes in the middle just to make sure there's even watering, and I can water them well. This has more soil, so there's better moisture retention. And what I think I'll do next time is I won't do so many. I'll just do like maybe 3 or 4 of these, so that when they do start sprouting and when it does start getting nice outside, I can start either putting them out or I could take the seedlings out and put them in larger containers that are easier to water and will retain water a little bit better. So that's my garden fail. Thank you very much. You can feel sorry for me later. All right, let's go. Okay, so we are here out right next to the blueberry bushes, and what I want to do is I want to pull up these weeds at the blueberry bushes and prepare it for covering for some kind of weed prevention system. Now, I don't use landscape fabric in my garden, and I'm not going to change that just for the blueberry bushes. I don't think landscape fabric is a good idea for the garden. It doesn't allow for good moisture retention. Either it doesn't allow moisture to get through enough, so your plants dry out, or it withholds too much moisture, and then you've got a whole bunch of bacteria and stuff going under it. It's just not a great idea. Blueberries need a certain amount of pH in their soil in order to grow well and healthy, and things like mulch and compost will throw off that pH balance, so I can't use those. Someone suggested using hay. I'm sure it's a good suggestion, but I just, all I can see is hay blowing around my garden on a windy summer day, and me running around with a bucket and a broom trying to sweep everything up. I don't want to live that life. So another suggestion that I had was the orchid potting bark. So this is the wood chips. These are the wood chips that are usually found in orchids when orchids are sold. They often pack orchids in these chips, and you can get them for orchids. You can get them for other plants that you want to put on top. What I want to do, I'm gonna actually order them when I go back inside, is I'm gonna get a couple more bags of these. What I did is I used these. I got these when I was planting the blueberries, and I put them in the hole to help with moisture retention under the soil. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get some more of these. So I'll probably have them by tomorrow or Saturday. And I'm going to use them as mulch, because these will not throw off the pH balance in the soil, and it'll help retain water. So they won't dry out the blueberries won't dry out as much, and I won't have to water it as much. So that'll be a project. I won't do it on video, but I'll show you the finished project. But that'll be a project. But for now, I just want to get these weeds pulled up so that we can, it could look nice, and it doesn't have to compete with weeds to get water and nutrients from the soil. So that's what we're going to do. Let me get you some. we're done, and it looks much better. So I got most of the weeds. There's still some little pieces in the back and under, but I didn't fuss too much about that because I'm going to cover it with the pine bark as soon as I get it. So hopefully that section will be okay. I'm going to have to go in though under the rose trellis because there's weeds back there. There are always weeds back there, always. I don't know, there's like a special kind of weed that love to grow under the roses. But I'll do that in another day. I'll do all of the roses at the same time because I got to get the ones in front of the house too. Anyway, so we're finished with this project. Let's go to our final project, watering. All right, everybody. So for my final project today, we're going to do some watering, which is standard, and I'm not going to take you through the whole whatever all that we water. It's really not that complicated, but I did want to give kind of a tip that I didn't really understand when I first started gardening. So if you're a first-time gardener, I kind of wanted to share this tip that would hopefully make your life a little bit easier. So let's get into it. So I'm using a standard garden hose. There's many garden hoses that we have, but I'm using a standard one. And I'm using it on the sprinkle spray because this is the most gentle for watering your plants, especially if you have plants with petals, or you have plants that are delicate, or any plants really. This helps keep them it helps keep you from breaking your plants while watering. It helps keep them from bowing, and it gives them a gentle watering, gives them what they need without hurting them. Now, do you see how I'm going around and I'm just kind of spraying everything? I'm giving everything a light spray. As a first-time gardener, I really thought this was sufficient. Thankfully, I learned a lot from my mom. My mom's been gardening for a long time, and she understood that this looks nice in pictures and in movies, but this, especially when it starts to get hot, is really what your plants need. What your plants need, for the most part, is a deep watering, and if you could get down to the base and water at the base, it needs a nice deep soaking. You don't always have to soak every day. It depends. When it gets hot here, sometimes, especially during July heat, it gets hot and it gets dry. In July we can go a week or more without having any rain. So we would come out there, especially if it's really hot, if we're in the middle of a heat wave, we come out every day and we water. Not everybody has to do that, but we do. But when we water, we give it a nice soaking. Not every plant needs that. You got to know your plants. I have salvia over here in the corner. That salvia doesn't need a nice soaking every day, because if I do that with the salvia, it's going to die. It's going to get root rot. That salvia is drought tolerant, and I can give it a nice soaking once a week, every few days, and it'll be okay. But these need a little bit more of a soaking. Your annuals definitely need a little bit more of a soaking. So that's how I do. I always try to be mindful of what kind of plants I have and what they need. I also try to be mindful of putting plants together that have similar needs. Now, admittedly, I'll take the water off. I don't want to waste the water. Admittedly, the Nemesia, I don't know much about the Nemesia. This is my first time planting it, growing it. But I know petunias, and petunias need a lot of water. This is a weed that I pulled. Petunias need a lot of water. So there are certain plants that I wouldn't put petunias with, just because I know that the petunias are going to get so much water, then it's going to affect the plants. So those are just some of the things I try to be mindful of in the garden. So I'm just going to go through the garden. I'll get little clips of watering, and then we'll be done. Let's do it. In containers, I get all the way down to the root sometimes, so the water pressure doesn't knock the tender branches down, and so the roots get what they need. And also for hydrangea, if I water in the morning, I try not to wet the leaves because I sometimes get sunspot. All right, everybody, we are just about done. Um, I was in the middle of watering, and then I started weeding, and I forgot that I was supposed to be filming because I was going to film some more for you. And then everything was done. So we are all finished. Everything's watered and tucked in for the night. So it is getting late, and it's time for me to go in and have some dinner and get ready for work tomorrow. Um, I hope that you have a wonderful evening. I hope that you got something out of this video. Tomorrow, I think we're going to do a little planting. And then Saturday, I think we're going to do some plant shopping. So that should be fun. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful evening, everybody. Good night.